The point is, like, everybody knows, like, if you didn't feed yourself, so everybody will control you. But Africa as a continent has a lot of good characteristics in agriculture, like in soil fertility, the type of plants they got, we have a variation. Like, Egypt's like number one in citrus, South Africa is really good competitor, Ghana in chocolate, for example, and the cacao plant. So we have a really remarkable features make Africa is really a good production.
So, as a distinguished professor in agriculture, what's your contribution? So, hi everyone. Welcome to the Consumer to Producer podcast, where we want to transform the narrative in Africa from not just importing, but producing our own goods and services that will be competitive on the world market. So, we'll start with agriculture. So, as a distinguished professor in agriculture, what's your contribution to Africa being a producer?
Thank you so much, Axon. I'm really happy to be with you here. I'm Riham Fathi Ali. Okay, I'm a professor in agriculture, Faculty for Agriculture, Cairo University, and also Faculty for Organic Agriculture, Heliopolis University. So from my background, like I work for long years in agriculture and how to make like more production. So you want here just to make Africa is really different in production. The point is like everybody knows like if you didn't feed yourself, so everybody will control you. But Africa as a continent has a lot of good characteristics in agriculture, like in soil fertility, the type of plants they got, we have a variation. Like, Egypt's like number one in citrus. South Africa is really good competitor. Ghana in chocolate, for example, and the cacao plant. So we have a really remarkable features make Africa is really a good production. So now in our role now as a professors, especially in academia or in educational programs, you really want to foster your students to be more aware of the impact of agriculture in their food and in their future. So one of the things we are working now, like how to provide them educational training about the importance, how to the production of the agriculture, how to make cultivate more important plants, and also now the direction is from just conventional agriculture to
Yeah.
organic agriculture,
Yeah.
which is I think it's belong for SDG, the global SDG now around the world. So as you know, like number one is no poverty and zero hunger. So if you focus about this kind of SDGs, so you will push them more and more to work in cultivation and really be responsible for their agriculture. So I think now provide them with educational programs and also increase their awareness is one of the things we are focused in them to make them really depend on themselves.
Okay. Thank you
Okay.
very much for your
Thank,
brilliant explanation.
thank you.
Our amazing entrepreneur who's transforming Uganda to be a pioneer in agriculture.
Yeah.
So, what is your impact on Africa being a producer, not just an importer of agriculture food products?
Thank you so much, Action, for that question. My name is Joseph Ogwal. I am the founder and the CEO of AgroSupply, which is an agribusiness company based out in Uganda that work with over 40,000 smaller farmers. We supply them with climate resilient variety of seeds. We provide training and offer market facilitation. And now we're going into validation. That means we want to add value to what our farmers are producing so that we don't only supply Ugandan consumers, we also expand it over to East African consumers, supplying different manufacturers that make consumable products for different consumers in different African markets. And to answer your question, I have been in the agricultural sector for some time. As someone who has studied agriculture, I worked with a number of companies, both for profit and non-profit organization, before starting AgroSupply. And I can tell you this: the African agricultural sector is valued to be at 1 trillion US dollars by 2030. That means that it's going to be one of the biggest sector in Africa. And secondly, all our country's GDP is driven by agriculture. So that means that production and value additions need to be taken very seriously. For my case, I started by working with 100 smaller farmers in 2019 when I started AgroSupply. And as I speak now, we're working with 40,000 smaller farmers. And we have managed to increase the production capacity of those farmers by 100%. That means that any farmer we found producing maize in an acre, 5 bags in an acre of land, is now producing over 10 bags of maize in an acre of land. And that's a very good increase. And all this is not only because we provide very good variety of seed that, by the way, we source all these variety of seeds across Africa. We are not seed producers ourselves as a grow supply. We work with different seed producers, others in Zambia, others in Zimbabwe, others are in Kenya, others in Tanzania. Companies that produce seed and give them to us, most of these seeds should be climate resilient. That means should be able to adapt to different heat stress, different climate conditions in different areas in Uganda. We started in Uganda right now. But also, our work is coupled with training. We realize that good seed is not enough to increase production. Farmers need to learn, like Professor said, how to plan, how to do management, how to do post-harvest handling. And these are some of the things that we're offering. And then if you want to, because the goal is to fight poverty, hunger, and if you're fighting hunger, that means you're increasing production. If you're fighting poverty, that means you need to provide market for what these farmers are producing. So we offer market for these people. We buy back what they've produced. And then now we're setting up a very huge grain processing facility that we're going to launch in October of 2026. This facility is unique in such a way that a lot of African product has not been entering European markets, or even a lot of what we call traders from different countries have not been trading with other countries. Reason being, most of our grain has very high level of what we call aflatoxin. Aflatoxin is a very dangerous molecule that is found in different grain, most of cereals, that comes as a result of poor post-harvest handling. Uh, Sad enough, most of our farmers have very, very poor post-harvest handling. They dry their grain on the floor. Some of them even dry it in the garden. Then they bring it home. That infect that grain a lot with the aflatoxin. And according to the African Grain Council, right now, most countries are not allowing the manufacturers to use grain that has aflatoxin. For you to make consumable products for your consumers or for your customers that are based in different countries, at least you need to use a product or a grain that does not have aflatoxin. So what we're doing is we're setting up a facility that allows us to remove aflatoxin even from this grain. That means that we are going to run it through what we call ozonation, reduce the level of aflatoxin and supply African manufacturers with a aflatoxin-free grain so they can make products for different consumers in different countries. Now, this brings me to our topic of producers to consumers. As African countries, we don't need to be importing food. We're blessed with very good soil in Uganda. If you travel across Africa, we have very good soil in different countries. In Zambia, in Kenya, in Tanzania, in Uganda, in Malawi, you find people living in rural communities. But the sad news is, if you look at the percentage of food that we still import into this country, it baffles me why we import food into Africa, yet Africa can grow food and feed itself.
Yeah, that's true.
And some of the things that I always tell my farmers is that regardless of what we do, we're trying to increase your income, but you as a farmer, you don't need to go hungry yourself. That's why we have what we call diversification in the portfolio of products that we supply to farmers. Some of it are 100% for sale. That means that for them to make money and have money in their pocket to be able to pay school fees, healthcare, and so on. But some of the product like beans, we definitely intentionally brought those products so that they can plant these crops and have food for consumption in their families, so that the people who feed other people that are moving, being in offices, does not go hungry themselves. And when I'm talking about those people who feed other people, are smaller farmers. Most of the farmers across Africa are smaller farmers, you know. And as a person, as Joseph, and as a grow supply, I believe that we have been able to really contribute in making sure that we improve the capacity of the producers who are the smaller farmers. And now we're doing the validation. That means that we are finishing up the whole agricultural value chain, right from primary production, which is producing with farmers, and then going into validation, and now selling into different manufacturers so that they can make final consumers. One thing that we're also doing a little bit is doing what we call fortification of flour. So that means we're milling maize. So as you know, uh, maize is eaten across Africa. In Uganda, we call it posho. In Kenya, they call it ugali. In Zimbabwe and in Zambia, they call it jatsa or something like that. So, but one thing that is across Africa is that what people eat as maize flour has no food value. It's just a bunch of carbs. And what we're doing is we are milling that normal flour and adding what we call premixes. That means we're adding food value, protein, vitamin, and so on, zinc, and so on, so that consumers, smaller farmers, and any different consumers across Africa that like maize flour, they can eat flour that has food value, not just eating carbs. So those are some of the value addition that we're trying to add in our facility that we're going to launch in October of 2025. I think that has been my contribution in agricultural production in Africa, right, starting from Uganda.
Amazing story. So in the technology sector, as an entrepreneur pioneer in technology in Ethiopia, how has been your contribution to Ethiopia being a producer of technology?
Thank you, Aksan. I'm Salam Taklaimanut. I'm from Ethiopia, co-founder and CEO of Tios Technology Solutions and Tios Outsourcing. So we have been facing like the system in transportation sector was manual. So it was exposed to errors, fraud, and the vehicles on the road were not roadworthy. So based on that problem, we tried to solve the problem by innovating the system in-house in our team. So we proposed that problem and the solution for the transport sector. So they accept the project, even if it took long communication with them. So we passed through the pilot testing phase, and we assured them, we build trust so that the system can make a lot of change, so that innovation is not a choice we should make. It's a must for these days. So we come with the solution, and it was really supportive for the government, the stakeholders on the vehicle inspection sector, transport management sector, and all the transport sector. So it since we start from the previous 2 years, we have been inspected more than 1 million vehicles through our system, and we have been working with more than 90 vehicle inspection centers, which are located in different areas, regions in Ethiopia. So the system was trying to solve our African problem, which is innovated in Africa, and it's doing it for Africa. So it's like a local product, like we are like becoming like became the producer. So it's been our main project, flagship project. But after that, we are currently trying to train the tech talent and outsourcing the tech developers and any like related to the sector to the international global market. So so far we are doing this. So the sector needs a mindset shift. So we can build our own products. We can solve our own local problems using our own like tech talent. So that's how we are doing till now. So after after that, we need regulations. Like the government needs to support us on changing the regulation. So far, we have been challenged by like there is resistance on change. So we need to change that. So as a like a sector and problem solver. So that's how we are facing till now. Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
it's amazing. That's me.
So, Action, as someone who has been in technology and working in different sector, in agriculture sector in different countries, what do you think is the role of technology in developing agricultural production in Africa?
Okay, so for now, I'll speak from perspective of
You need to
aerospace
start
drones.
introducing yourself, what you
Oh,
do, and
yeah. Okay. So thank you very much for the question. So my name is Axon, aerospace engineer. Graduated in Ukraine in 2015. Then I've been working, I started in aviation, then I moved to drones. Yeah, then drones, I was in agriculture, and now I'm working in mining. So in mining, using drones for geology, exploration of minerals, and also training security how to fly drones. And in agriculture, precision agriculture is about identifying diseases using multispectral sensors on drones. Yeah, sensors in that. So for production, in order to empower farmers require data in real time.
Yeah.
So for that, we would go with drones and then capture the data, and that data will be sent to you digitally. You can access it maybe through virtual reality to have like an immersive experience inside the farm.
Yeah.
Or we'll give an agronomist, and the agronomist is able to advise the farmer what diseases they've identified on the plant. For instance, with a thermal camera or attached to a drone, you're able to see if plants are water stressed on a farm, because their canopies will appear a bit different. Not canopy. What do you call them? Leaves. They'll appear a bit different if they're water stressed.
Yeah.
Because of the spectrum of the image. So like that, if for instance you have an irrigation system, you already know the geolocalized location which requires to spray the water.
Yeah.
So you don't have to waste your pump water and just spray everywhere, which is costly for a farmer.
Yeah.
It will operate to operate an irrigation system.
Yeah.
So for us, it's data, accessibility to data, assisting farmers to have the best data to make well-informed decisions using that data, and to know every geolocation of their farm, whether a disease is based in a certain area. They don't have to physically go there. They just have to know that, okay, the drone identified it on this GPS location. So next time, if you have maybe an agronomist is going through the farm and they have to spray a chemical, he has to just use a GPS guide to guide him to go to the exact location and not start physically searching again. So it's accessibility to data. For us, that was the solution. Yeah.
One last question. What do you think policymakers should do to integrate this kind of technology into African agriculture sector?
So I think I think the main thing is about bridging the gap between traditional methods that already exist and the digital revolution.
Yeah.
It's about showing farmers, okay, how can they save time? Don't tell them that their methods are outdated. The methods were working for them, but how can they improve on that, on what's already existing, the methods that already exist? Yeah. Other farmers like being immersive in their work physically. They want to touch their plants. They want to do that. But you can tell them, okay, sometimes you're in Paris and you're not in your farm, but you still want to know the daily operations in your farm, the management of it remotely while you're not there. You require drone pilots to go on your farm, get the data for you, and while you're in the office, you'll be able to plan everything on a platform, and then you guide the people on the ground through the mobile phone. Just call them and tell them, on this GPS location, I want you to look at this that you've identified. Yeah. So it's about bridging the gap between digital and technology, and seeing how these two can work together to create a productive agriculture industry.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Great.
can you ask that same question to all of us? Something to do with how policy, how
Challenge.
government, how
ask about
government and
challenge.
policy makers,
It's me about
what they can do to increase, regulate agriculture sector, or even make it the production more easier.
Okay.
You can start with Professor.
Yeah, you can ask me also the challenges and something like that.
Okay.
Mhm.
So, Professor, from your experience in the agriculture industry, how do you think the government can establish policies that will facilitate you to be a producer? And what are some of the challenges that you've been facing so far?
Okay, thank you, Accent, for the question. I think we have a lot of challenges, that happen to agriculture. So we have a lot of things we tackle, like the most important thing now is the climate change, okay? So the climate change, especially like a region like North Africa, like Egypt, we have really a huge problem in that. Especially we are considered a little bit like arid region as well. So you have also like a low amount of the water. So the water is really expensive for irrigation, for example. So we try nowadays, like we have a multiple projects, we are encouraged to join them, like something cool about another farming system. Okay, like agroecology, for example, it's one of the systems that we should follow, because here we can focus about like the soil health, to increase the nutrient inside the soil, to increase the number of plants, so to make like more nutrient soil, and also to provide a lot of plants, so also to increased like the biodiversity in the farm itself. So you make it closer to the nature. Not also about the agroecology system, but also there is something called agroforestry. So this system is really common and it is really worldwide, but maybe now in some spots in Africa, it really exists nowadays. Like I read some articles, they are in Kenya, they are like, for example, in Senegal, and nowadays in Egypt, we try to implement the same process. So this kind of farming system is really increasing the production. So I hope from my government, or I hope from other funding agency, okay, if they are really want to improve the agriculture production, so I think they need to like to make not the regulations that much hard, okay, also to fund the idea because it's really important for the farmer. If you really want to increase his production from or yield production from, like for example, like in corn or maize is really also common in Egypt to be increased. So if you want just to make it from 12 tons to like 20 tons, so I think you need to um, adopt this kind of farming system that increase the production. So I think the government really has very, very important rules, and also not only the government itself. I think also the stakeholders, they have to be believing the idea, and very really we want to help the farmers and the growers, okay, and also to spread the idea between them, and because also this other rule, the extension. So you have agricultural extension services. You should help the farmers. You should aware him. You should increasing like doing a campaign and increasing him as awareness. Okay, and but the problem is, as you see, like the cultural practices, it's inheriting, by generation, multiple generation. So to change all that, okay, what he learned from his grandfather and his family and his ancestors, and suddenly want to change his mindset to make agriculture production in a different way, it really takes a time. So I think this is not only the government, I think the government, the stakeholders, the academia themselves, and agriculture scientists, all of them should work together, okay, to make this agricultural production in the right track.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you so much.
As an amazing entrepreneur who's a pioneer in agriculture, what are some of the challenges that you have faced, and how do you see governments can facilitate your journey as an entrepreneur?
I'll be precise and very simple. I like I said, my company imports input from different countries, and sometimes we find challenges as African trying to access products from different countries. For example, government should make it easy for people to access what they call import permits, because for you to get product, let's say I want to get a product from Zambia, I need to get an import permit. But if the government from that side is making it very hard for another African country to get import permits for them to import products to another country, it makes it very hard. Then secondly, agriculture unites us all, and we all have different ministry of agriculture in different countries. There is no need for another government to subject another agricultural product from another country for a second test if the same product has already been approved from that particular country. For example, if a soybean variety has already been approved in Egypt, why should that same variety go through a second testing in Uganda, for example? Why can't we make it very easy? Why can't we make policies that allow intercontinental trade very easy? I know this is already in place, but simply sometimes it doesn't work. And then secondly, we need to connect our revenue authorities in such a way that the processes of clearing all these goods become a little bit easy. Then lastly, I think all African countries should make it an effort to make agricultural products tax exempted.
Yes.
That way, it would really help a lot. It would help increase our export. That means that a lot of product can get out of here and go to other places. It also increase the capacity of value addition in different countries. That means even local investors can be able to bring in different kind of machines to do validation in agricultural product and increase our GDP. But as long as we are taxing agricultural products, we are going to increase a lot of burden on smaller farmers across Africa. That means the cost of inputs is going to be high. The cost of seed, fertilizer, and so on is going to be high. That means smaller farmers are still going to use the traditional method of farming. We are not increasing production at all. That means we're not providing anything for the consumers. So I think government should make it intentional to make all agricultural products tax exempted in different countries. Yeah.
Okay, I saw you emphasize on the part where if something is tested in Egypt or is tested in an African country,
Yeah.
why should it be tested again in another country?
Yes.
Don't you think maybe they can have like well, we have African Union as a central platform for African countries.
Yes.
Why can't they be like a unified bureau standards platform where such permits or documents or any tests that are done, diagnostics in your country, can be uploaded to a unified platform, and it should be recognized by all other countries automatically?
So I
Yes,
think
brother.
that is already
Certificate.
that is already there. There's something in East Africa which is called what? I've forgotten the name. Which unites every companies working in agriculture. Once a product is tested in Zambia, it's not supposed to be tested in Tanzania or in Uganda. Now, unfortunately, not everyone is a member of that alliance. Okay, not every country is a member of that alliance. I wish I could remember the name. Not every country is a member of that alliance.
Sorry, but yeah. All right, guys, it's been a pleasure hosting all of you and hearing your amazing stories and how you're changing the narrative in Africa, being a consumer to being a producer. And that's the new generation that we need so that Africa can be competitive on the global stage. All right.